Welcome DBI to another tutorial by your littlest admin Kansu. I'm going to try to show you real quick how to master Gnotes or the text editor, which would apply to bios as well in our system. So to talk about Gnotes real quick, which stands for Global Notes or the Gboard system, Gboard for long or Gboard for short. I'm on my alt character here, my Poobah, my cow. That's it, the cow, the Kyo. I don't play too often, so there's lots of notes here. So the easy thing, you see this when you log in. You can also pull it up by hitting Gboard, GB. There's probably other commands. If you want to switch to a board to start reading notes, you can type the number here for the board number in the first column. So general's got a few notes I haven't read on this character. So Gboard 2, current board is general. You can just type GN, which is short for Gnote, to scroll through all the different notes that are there. A couple of commands you can use are Gnote list, which will list all the Gnotes that are on the board. The boards do purge after about, 30 days, I think is the standard. But Immortals, we can actually set a time limit. So if we want a note to hang out on the board for 300 days or 2 years or something, we can do that with announce notes and stuff like that. Sorry, just respond to that guy real quick. Very nice, Phineas. So what I want to show, though, is how to write the notes, which is more of the important part. I think most people have learned how to scroll through note, at least because when you log in, you're forced to read those announce notes, which you get that little Gboard 1, Gnote read. And of course, like most of the announce notes we make last a little longer, so you can see all these have been from forever ago. Gnote read 1. If you want to read an old one, it's just GN read the number of the note after you've listed it. And this one's from July of 2022, so that Rendo thought that was a really important note that we had to see forever, which it is, I guess. It's talking about the contest and race updates, so it gets people's attention. You'll see that you get a little text right here on the bottom that says you can only read notes from this board. As you go through the different boards, you'll see that you can only do certain things. Admins have access to an announce. If you go down to Gboard 9, you can only read here. This is the quest board's usually for super mob kills, whenever you manage to get or whenever you make a wish with certain Dragon Balls, all that sorts of stuff. I think Immortals can write on it. We generally don't. We kind of let the game do its thing there. I think everything except for 9, 1, and technically 8 are available for you to read. Gboard 8 is the personal board, which works a little differently. Whenever you write on the, and we'll get into how you write a note here in a moment, but the way most of the boards write is that you have to include everyone or all, but the personal board requires you not to include all. You have to write it to a single person, or I believe it gives you the option to write to the admin, so that would alert everyone who's in the admin group, which would be me, Kansu, Riz, Luke, or Eichenbahn, as you might know him, and Rendo. Rendo probably won't read your notes. Let's be honest. I'm just kidding. He reads every single note. He might tell you different, but he does. So anyway, let's go to Gboard 2. If you type GN, like I said, it just scrolls through, and it'll keep going and keep going and keep going. It doesn't give you a list of commands. A lot of things in Smog or the DBSC codebase will tell you when something's has options. So I think help Gnote's a thing. Yeah, this is a really old help file, but it's I think generally up to date. Another thing you can do, talking about reading things, if you're on like a different character, I read every note, but as you can see in this alt, I don't. That's because like I know which character I'm currently playing, or like for example, for me, I have an immortal, so that's like my main. I read all the notes on my immortal. I don't need to read the notes on other characters. So one of the cool things you can do is GN catch up. All the messages are skipped on whatever board you have currently active. So we had the ideas board active, and boom, it's done. You can do this for any board, I think, except for announce, and you might not be able to skip personal notes either. I'm not 100% sure. You probably won't get a lot of those anyway, but and you probably don't want to skip them. But to write a note, go to Gboard 2, and if we go back to our help Gnote file, you can see that one of the only other options we have is the Gnote write. So if we type GN or Gnote, if you want to be full, you can type Gnote write. It'll put you into the editor, or the subject line of the editor. This is what I was talking about earlier, where it says you must include all. If not, it will be added. So you can do all, hit enter, or you can hit all space Riz, all space, Genesis, whoever you want to target. And when you do target someone, all it does is add something to this middle column. Well, I guess you can't really see it. I'll highlight the whole thing. But this personal column here in the middle, it just it'll add a 1 there for someone who's targeted by that personal note. Next is your subject. It's like writing an email where you're just putting like, this is a tutorial, this is a note about a bug, this is like, whatever. Just so whenever someone Gnote lists or is going through old notes or something, they'll see that topic and be able to go back to it. Now you're in the editor. As you can see, you get a few commands up here. If you type // ? You'll get the full list. This one's blocked. I actually confirmed this the other day. This would let you do commands outside of being in the editor. My understanding is that it let you do some kind of weird stuff that would crash the mud. And it's weird how the Gboard stuff works when in comparison to the other commands in the mud, so we won't worry about that. So when you're writing a note, you do have a shorter timeout, so you do kind of have to be ready. I usually suggest writing your note in something like Notepad or Notepad++, a common text editor, like a basic text editor, because WordPad adds all these fancy characters. Google Docs, if you don't set the right settings, adds like the weird not parentheses, the quotation marks and stuff like that. So it's technically what you want is UTF-8. But if you don't worry about it too much, basically just plain text like a notepad. And when you paste it in there, and if you do paste the wrong thing, it'll just kind of remove those things that aren't compatible with mud transmission crap. As you can see, I hit enter a few times, just making sure we stayed alive. If for some reason you screwed up or like you typo, your kid comes over, or cat's like walking across your keyboard, so shout out to you, Zodion, and you're like, oh man, I've totally screwed this up. The first command you can do is /c, which is for clear. I don't think, full clear doesn't work, but /c, the buffer is cleared. What they mean by the buffer is this thing that you're typing that you haven't input yet. So let's start typing. Let's start talking about, what is my favorite game? Let's talk about Final Fantasy 9. Final Fantasy FF9 is a great Final Fantasy game because it calls back to a lot of old games that I played before and is sort of like a homage to those things. Now, as you can see, I kind of like, this is just like almost like a flow of motion of thoughts that I just put in this editor, and it looks bad. Like if we were to post this now, it's readable, but it's like it's broken up. There's 2 words here, there's 3 words. The magic command, the one that you might use the most, is /f, which is for format. What format does is it tries to take all the words that you've written and make them uniform. So I guess like it tries to justify the words. So it cuts off at a certain point and wraps them around. So if we hit /F and hit enter, and then we type /L for list, which list just means list all the lines, you can see that it's broken it down. It's smushed it all together. Now, one of the bad things about this is if you're trying to make something that's formatted, like let's say you want to make like this really cool little equal sign, and you're like, this is the start of my episode, please watch, I appreciate it, or whatever. Like you're like, okay, that looks good. Like it has that line there, it has the 2 sentences. You're like, oh man, I should have included 6 with 5. Hit format here, it's going to slam all this together. So that doesn't look like you want it to. And once you've done something like this, it's really hard to fix it. You basically have to delete the line and retype it. But the way to avoid that is, as you can see here, I add an extra line. It won't, it treats paragraphs, like this 3 here, it's a blank line, and then 4 has info on it. It's treating that as a new paragraph. So you don't have to worry about separating those things. So what you could do in this case, if you wanted that separated, like these equals to make whatever, you could hit enter again to make a new line. This is great. And you have this. Now, if you hit format, it's all going to stay because it formats within paragraphs. So let's go ahead and show you one more thing. Like, let's just say we're like, oh man, I thought I did put that separator in. So you delete 4. Deleting 4 deletes that whole line and moves every other line up. It doesn't clear that line. It removes it completely and does not insert a new line. So 5 has become 4 and 6 has become 5 and so on. So if you want to then put in like a line like we have 6 above 4, you would insert 4, and it says, you've now inserted a line. Inserting a line at 4 creates a line above. Inserting creates a line above the line that you're putting in as the argument. So insert 4 creates a line at 4 above the current line 4. Now, when you look at list or when you're looking at the editor, you'll see you have a little star here. Even though we inserted on 4, we're not on line 4. We're on line 11. So the next thing we need to learn is, well, if we go back to our help, it's G, which is go to line. So /G and then 4, and we're on line 4. I would also like to mention that I know there are a few, I think it's mostly, it might be the Android MUD client, and there might be like another one that doesn't like using /. I think all commands are supported with backslashes as well instead of /. So if you do /G4, it'll do the exact same thing. I don't think there's like double lines. Yeah, just testing it out real quick. So / or backslash is supported. I think they work exactly the same way. If neither of those work for you, you probably need to find some sort of client setting and fix that if you do want to write notes. And all of this does apply to writing bios as well. Bios are usually really long, so I wouldn't recommend writing them in the text buffer. I would highly recommend using some sort of text editor and then putting them in, especially for spell checking and stuff like that. But to go back to what we're doing, you've gone to 4. You could write like, we want to add that separator and you hit equals. One of the things here though is if you did want to add a line above that didn't match the other line, like you've hit enter, so it always adds a new line below when you hit enter. So it doesn't go to the next line. So right after you insert and then write, if you wanted to make these match up and you want to leave that divider, but you didn't want a space after, you'd need to delete that next line, and you can see 4 and 5 have matched up now. Also, this leads to my next point. You can go to a line that has text in it, like please watch, I appreciate it, and then you can immediately start typing. And it will add text to the line that you're currently in. We are watching live. We're not. Actually, this is in the future. I add an extra space, and you can see that there's actually already a space there. So if we go back to 5 and we type we are, there's no space there. Let's list again. I might be wrong. I might have added 2 spaces. So we are, 1 space, we are. Oh, got to go to 5 first. Space, we are. I thought there was a quirk there. No, so it'll immediately start adding text after whatever point you are. Maybe I had added a space after it. Who knows? But those are the basic text editor. There's one more thing that is really good. I think I'll probably have to get Render to fix this. Let's actually look at this live if we can do this, because I know replaces were broken for a while for a lot of stuff. But if we do R, please, and then let's change it to don't with no... yeah, so this is on my mortal character, so it works. So if you see, every instance of please has been replaced. /R is really, really good for mostly for immortals, though. I can't think of many situations where you'd be writing a note and you're like, oh my god, I need to replace this word. But if it's one small word, what's really nice about it is you don't have to edit a whole line. Like if you realize you have a typo, like let's say appreciates typoed, and I'm like, oh my god, I can't believe that. I don't want to go back and delete that line and add the line. As I showed you earlier, when you edit a line, it adds a line below it that's blank. Replace, appreciate. Let's, I think it'll make it lowercase. Yeah, so here we go. I don't know if it's case sensitive whenever you're doing the first replace. And if you need to do more than one word, you do need to encase it within single quotes. So I don't know if double quotes will work, but single quotes work for sure. So if we do /R for replace and we do let's actually do are we space definitely. And the second word doesn't actually need to, let's actually do 2 words. If it's only one word, you don't need to encase it. But if it's 2 words, it basically wants 1 argument, 2 arguments. So if you put 4 total words, it would see it as 1 argument, or 1, 2, 3, 4 arguments. It is case sensitive, it looks like. So let's try that again. So let's do are we, and I don't know if color codes matter too. Replace is a little weird. I think it like sometimes does matter on color codes and sometimes doesn't, but you won't be using replace a lot in your tutorials. My tutorial, sorry, in your writing of notes. Let's see. So we went through clear, list, delete, go to, insert, replace, abort. So if you abort, you jump out of the text editor. So we just aborted that note. It's not posted. Whenever you do post a note, when you hit, which actually will be the last command, when you're done writing, you do a / or if you have to \s, which means save. That works for bios or notes or whatever. And then it does give you an option on notes of like, do you want to post this? Do you want to review it? Do you want to go back in the editor, etc. But abort gets you out of the note, which isn't very useful unless you just want to stop writing. The reason I say this is that, like for immortals, if you're writing a description and like, let's say you accidentally clear the whole thing and you're like, oh shit, I don't want to clear that whole thing. I wanted to just replace 1 word. If you hit abort, it will keep the old thing that was in the buffer. It won't override it with a blank. So let's do all subject tutorial doing this thing, and then list. I just saw this one, print information. I never use this. I guess this just shows you how many lines you have, the buffer size, which I think is the amount of characters, and the max size of the buffer. So this almost, I don't think, will ever come into play whenever you're doing a Gnote, but if you're writing a bio, I guess you could probably hit that limit. But anyway, to show you how a note's done, once you've written a note, and you've got everything going in there, you hit /S. Until you're done. Continue, view, post, or forget it. Continue will put you back in the editor that we've been going over for the last however long it's been. View gives you a preview of what your note will say. So basically the text that you've written. Post it to the board, and F deletes it. So we can go ahead and let's just go ahead and hit P. You'll see that the whole mud gets alerted. So GN doing this thing, and we're done. I don't think there's much to go over. I could show you how you write a bio, which is just bio. It's like you have the same commands. Here's a bio list. You can format it, save it, whatever, and then you have to hit require bio auth afterwards. But that's about it. It's the same as a text editor. Like I said, it's much better if you just take a huge text file and paste it in. I don't think I have one I can show you guys right off the bat. Let's see. I'm just trying to check to see if I have something pulled up real quick. No, I don't have anything I can look for. Maybe like a help file or something. Yeah, so let's go back to our bio. So list, and like I copy this from a text file. You can just copy and hit paste, and you'll see it does these little arrows, and all this is in here. And if you hit F, it'll format it all. Here we go again. So one of the things that's really weird too about the text editor, and I guess this is something I should have touched on. I told you that it would blank lines. If you do create a blank line yourself, it's fine. But if you're copying from a text editor and that blank line has no characters in it, it doesn't actually count it as a blank line. So now I've cleared it because I screwed everything up. I'm going to repaste it. Every single blank line, all these lines you see, like 10, 5, 18 and 19, 23, I put one space on that line and repasted it. When I hit format, I guess this is the what we get for doing it live. So it might be because I already spaced it out and it has spaces before it. Let's see if we can fix it. It might be because I did extra spaces because this is a help file that I'm trying to copy, so it has like weird extra formatting. I want to put a few extra spaces. This usually works, I swear. And all right, copy and paste, clear, copy, paste, list, format, list. That didn't work. Will 2 lines work? And this might just be because of the text editor I'm using. Although I use this all the time. Oops. Yeah, it's just being really weird. I think it's because it's got those weird spaces before it, so it's like pushing all that over and up. Although that first paragraph does too. Although you see it's how it's indenting it and thinking it's a... Oh, the things I do for the mud. Hold on. Let me try to edit this and then see how it pastes. Space there, space there, space there. All right, one more time. If this doesn't work, we're just going to call it a quirk of the system. So we've pasted it. I took out those preceding spaces. I think maybe the formatting was messing it up. Let's do a format. No, it's still slamming some of it together. I don't know why. It could be because of the color codes. Ugh. No, I don't think so. But this is also another really good point of why you write everything in a text editor first, because you're like, oh, everything looks great. I'm going to format it and put it together and be done. And then you realize this messes up, so it's easier just to do it in text editor. I think it's something that I'll have to look at later to see why it's going wrong. But I think everything else that I've showed you guys will help you write G notes. So let's call that a wrap.